Welcome back to CIA Declassified. In our previous episodes, we have explored the chemistry of the blood and the shadows of the safe house. Today, we enter a realm that many dismissed as fantasy, but which the CIA treated with the gravity of a nuclear launch. In the early 1970s, the agency received intelligence that the Soviet Union was spending 60 million rubles a year on psychotronic research. The fear was simple. If the Soviets could influence minds or view top secret documents from across the globe using only the power of thought, the United States was strategically defenseless. Enter a young man from Israel named Uri Geller. This is the story of the Uri Geller laboratory evaluation based on document CIA RDP 96-00787R000700110003-2. We're going into the labs of Stanford Research Institute, SRI, where the CIA spent 8 days in August 1973 trying to determine if magic was real or if they were being conned by the greatest showman of the century. The evaluation was conducted at SRI in California. The researchers were Dr. Harold Puthoff and Russell Targ. Both were respected physicists specializing in lasers and quantum electronics, but they were about to enter a world where the laws of physics seemed to bend. The CIA didn't just send observers, they sent blue ribbon analysts from the Office of Technical Service. The goal was to eliminate the possibility of sleight of hand. The document notes that Geller was never left alone. Every move was recorded on 16mm film and videotape. The experiment focused on remote perception. Geller was placed in a double-walled copper-screen Faraday cage, a room designed to block all electromagnetic transmissions. Outside the room, a target picture was chosen at random from a dictionary. A researcher would draw the image on a piece of paper, tape it to a wall in a different wing of the building, and then Geller would be asked to reproduce the image. A declassified quote. Geller's descriptions were often startlingly accurate. In one instance, the target was a bunch of grapes. Geller's reproduction was not just a sketch of grapes, but included the exact number of spheres, 24, contained in the original drawing. End quote. Let's look at the Shielded Room series from August 4th to August 11th. This is where the technical data becomes dense. On August 4th, the target was a firecracker. Geller sat inside the shield, separated by several walls and a distance of approximately 15 meters. He stated, quote, "I see a cylinder with a noise coming out of it," end quote. He drew a drum. On August 5th, the target was grapes. The document notes, quote, Geller immediately said he saw purple circles. He drew the bunch of grapes with incredible precision, end quote. By August 6th, the skeptics within the CIA began to push back. They demanded double-blind conditions. They moved the target selection to a different building entirely. The target was a devil. Geller, from within the Faraday cage, drew a trident. He told the researchers, "I see something sharp like a pitchfork." Technical note, the document highlights that Geller's accuracy did not decrease as the distance increased. This defied the inverse square law of physics, which states that a signal could get weaker the further you are from the source. To the CIA, this meant that if this was a signal, it wasn't a radio wave, it was something else. While the remote viewing test showed promise, it was Geller's psychokinesis, his ability to affect physical objects, that caused the most internal friction within the CIA. Geller claimed he could bend metal and affect sensitive laboratory equipment. Operational log. During the August 4th session, the agency brought in a precision balance scale under a glass bell jar. They wanted to see if Geller could weigh the air or move the scale without touching it. The declassified report notes that Geller produced, quote, significant deflections, end quote, on the chart recorder that monitored the scale. However, the agency's analysts were skeptical. They noted that Geller often required, quote, high levels of emotional arousal, end quote, and frequent breaks. He would pace the room, touch the equipment, and complain of headaches. To a physicist, this was a variable. To a CIA counterintelligence officer, this was a distraction protocol. A quotation from the evaluation. The subject was observed to have a high degree of task avoidance behavior. When the experimental constraints were tightened, the subject's ability to produce results appeared to fluctuate in direct correlation with his perceived rapport with the investigators, end quote. One of the least discussed aspects of the report is the use of the squid magnetometer. This is a device used to detect incredibly faint magnetic fields so small they are usually only found in the human brain or deep spaces. On August 8th, Geller was asked to influence the magnetometer. The device was shielded against all known external interference. According to the Declassified log, the magnetometer recorded a, quote, huge spike, end quote, when Geller placed his hands near the shield. Technical data. The spike was estimated at 0.3 GAUSS. I don't know how to pronounce it. For context, that is a massive magnetic signature to produce without any copper coils or electricity. The CIA analysts noted that they could not find any hidden magnets on Geller's person using their own sensors, yet the report remains, quote, inconclusive, end quote, because Geller refused to allow a full body cavity search during the peak of the testing. If you look at the final pages of document CIA RDP96-00787R000700110003-2, you will find some of the most frustrating black ink in the Stargate archives. The speculation. The redactions occur most heavily in the, quote, conclusion and operational recommendations, end quote, section. Specifically, there are 3 paragraphs following a successful drawing of a, quote, man in a spaceship, end quote. Based on the surrounding language, which mentions potential for foreign intelligence application, it is highly probable that these redacted sections detail a live field test. It is speculated that Geller wasn't just tested in a lab, but was asked to view a known Soviet facility, possibly a nuclear test site. If Geller had successfully described a real-world Soviet secret, the agency would have had to redact the results to protect the fact that they now had a psychic asset in the field. Furthermore, some analysts believe the redactions cover the agency's internal disagreement over whether Geller was using a miniature implant in his tooth or ear, a technology the CIA's OTS was already developing for their own spies. Beyond the primary report, a separate technical audit conducted by the CIA's Office of Technical Service, OTS, raised questions that still linger in the declassified record. Analysts focused on the ambient noise in the lab environment. They noted that Geller seemed to perform better when the environment was noisy with electronic equipment, suggesting a speculative theory that Geller might not have been seeing the images but rather hearing the electrical signatures of the brainwaves of the researchers themselves. Technical data. The audit mentions that during the bunny drawing test, the researcher Russell Targ was thinking intensely about the shape to broadcast it. Geller's drawing was an exact match. Some agency skeptics speculated that this wasn't Geller's power at all, but a telepathic induction caused by the researcher's own high expectations. Effectively, the researchers were unknowingly coaching Geller through minute subconscious muscle movements or vocal cues. Speculative analysis. There is a persistent, unverified rumor in intelligence circles regarding the Prometheus memo. It is speculated that this memo, which remains classified above the level of the SRI report, details a session where Geller was asked to locate deep underground military bases, or DUMBs. The speculation suggests Geller successfully identified the coordinates of a hidden facility in the Ural Mountains, providing details about the ventilation shafts that were later confirmed by high-altitude satellite reconnaissance. If this memo exists, it would explain why the agency continued to fund psychic research for 20 years despite the inconsistent laboratory data. Fact. In the years following the SRI evaluation, the CIA didn't just look for psychics, they looked for electronic countermeasures against them. Declassified memos from the 70s suggest the agency was terrified that the human mind could be hacked remotely. This led to a series of experiments on ELF, extremely low-frequency waves, and their effect on human cognition. The Geller experiments didn't just open the door to remote viewing, they opened a Pandora's box of neurological warfare that the agency is still grappling with today. Was the Geller evaluation a success? The answer depends on who you ask. For the SRI, researchers put off in target was a breakthrough. They concluded that Geller had demonstrated paranormal perceptual ability in a convincing and unambiguous manner. They published their findings in Nature, one of the world's most prestigious scientific journals, though the paper was met with a firestorm of criticism. Fact, the CIA's official summary was more guarded. They admitted that something had happened that they couldn't explain using current physical models. They couldn't prove Geller was a fraud, but they also couldn't replicate the results with 100% reliability. However, in the world of intelligence, a 60% success rate is better than zero. The Geller evaluation was the green light for Project ScanNate and eventually Project Stargate. It proved to the agency that remote viewing was a viable, if unpredictable, intelligence gathering tool. It was a success not because Geller was a wizard, but because he convinced the CIA that the psychic gap with the Soviets was real. While we don't have psychic soldiers today, the Geller evaluation led to unexpected hard-tech breakthroughs. Technological breakthroughs, the agency became obsessed with non-ionizing radiation. They began developing sensors that could detect the minute electromagnetic charges in a room when a human was concentrating. This research led directly to improvements in Tempest technology, the ability to shield sensitive computers from being read through their electromagnetic linkage. If Geller could read a drawing through a wall, the CIA assumed a Soviet computer could read a typewriter's keystrokes through a window. Operational breakthrough. The project perfected the blind interrogation technique. To prevent Geller from reading the mind of the researcher, they developed the double-blind protocol where the person sitting with Geller didn't even know what the target image was. This protocol became the standard for all future CIA behavioral testing, and it changed the way the agency handled high-value assets who might be prone to manipulation or confabulation. Uri Geller would go on to become a global celebrity, a man of mystery who divided the scientific community. But for 8 days in 1973, he was simply subject one in a copper room. The Geller evaluation reminds us that during the Cold War, the CIA was willing to look anywhere for an edge, even into the void of the human subconscious. Whether Geller was a psychic of a master misdirection or a master of misdirection, he succeeded in one thing. He made the world's most powerful intelligence agency believe in the impossible. Next time on CIA Declassified, we return to the laboratory. We move from the psychic visions of the 70s to the final desperate gasp of the agency's behavior control programs in the 1960s. We will be opening the file on Project MK Search, based on document CIA RDP83-00156-0001-0008-0. We will explore the successor to MK Ultra. This was the project where the CIA stopped looking for truth serums and started looking for biological disruptors. We will examine the search for disposable human subjects and the development of knockout chemicals designed to incapacitate entire groups of people. When the research becomes too dark for the lab, it moves into the search. Join us next time for Project MK Search, the final frontier of control. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.